What's up, everybody? It's Joe LaPuma. You were listening. You were watching the Complex Sneakers podcast. As always, I'm with my two friends, my two co-hosts. To my right, Mr. Matt Welty.
It feels like it's Monday, but it's Wednesday.
It is.
Well, it's like yesterday was 4th of July.
Yep. We're a little out of schedule.
He always announces the day that it is, even though it's never the actual day that people are listening to this.
Yeah, we're a little out of schedule.
Transparency.
Yes. To my left, the world traveler.
Hi, what's
Mr.
up?
Brendan Dunne.
Yes, hello.
How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm in London right now.
Yes, he will be in London when this posts.
Wait, is this like a hologram of yourself?
Yeah,
Just a ChatGPT
beamed
version?
in. No, I'm trying to keep the people aware. So it's Friday, it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday. We're here, we're there.
Yeah.
Like you said, transparency.
Absolutely. How was the birthday celebration?
It was good, thank you.
Yeah.
A little more lively than the impromptu one we had on set that was cobbled together in the minutes when people realized that it wasn't.
Tried.
Do you wish you had gotten a cookie cake instead?
You know I hate the cookie cake.
No, he likes donuts.
I do. But we don't need to talk about me anymore. Well, we do. Well, we could talk about me, but just
All
not
right,
my
that's
birthday.
it. A minute in. No more from Jay. No more about Brendan Dunne. What do we got going on since we haven't been together in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, recorded this one super early. I was at the beach over the weekend. Another one of those situations like I described being at a music festival recently where the rain was hovering overhead. And I feel like this is one of the curses of being someone who's super into sneakers is that other people will go to events like that or environments where, things might get a little bit dicey toward your feet and they don't worry about it or don't think about it. But
It'll ruin your day, literally.
Yeah, you like plan your day around, whether or not your shoes are appropriate for a setting
or not.
Hey, I
There
love
he goes.
that. We were at the beach and the rain starts pouring down. We're standing under this concrete thing for some cover, and everybody else is kind of not that worried about it. And it wasn't sneakers, but a pair of loafers in my bag. I can't let these get ruined.
Loafers to the beach,
You
huh?
were wearing loafers to the beach?
Wow, he thought he was in Mykonos. Okay.
With Teddy in them.
Yeah, you thought you were in Mykonos. Where were you?
Was that a misplay right up top?
I mean, no, but that's like a little bit of Aperol spritz and a little bit
Couple extra buttons on buttons.
Exactly.
What would our good friend Max Holloway say about your footwear situation?
You use slippers at the beach, I'll slap you on the backside of the head.
Yeah, he said that, right?
Yeah.
What do y'all wear to the beach for footwear? Normally, I would have been a Yeezy foam runner guy, but I just can't do the foam runners right now.
We did do a sponsorship with Merrill, and you do have a pair of
Yes, you're right.
Hydromox.
The Merrill Hydromox. You think I should have done
the
them?
beach though?
Yeah, it's
heavy.
Is there
Isn't it
any
too
more
heavy?
hydro environment than that?
No, but is it like a sandal or it's like light?
It's light. It's the foam one with the holes on it.
Okay.
They would have been perfect. Welty, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, those are. I feel like there's a lot of actually like really
Cool shoes you can wear to the beach
and we
right
could
now.
talk about it more, like, I guess, I don't know, but as we get into the topics today, but there's a lot of like footwear that I wouldn't have even considered 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago that, I don't know, maybe I'm getting older, maybe trends are changing and things are getting cooler where you just see
all of the above.
You see all these like random sort of just like outdoorsy, non-hype cool shoes where you're like, oh, that's a cool.
That's one I would wear.
You know what play I run a lot for the beach, especially if I'm like kind of on vacation and like I get like the really cheap thong sandals just for the beach though.
Welty, what are the ones with the Brazilian flag called?
Havaianas.
Yeah.
Is
but
that
not
you,
even
Joe?
cheaper than that. It's only because I
The
like
$2 thongs?
Yeah, I only go like barefoot like to the beach, and then as soon as I would get back to the room or whatever, and I always like leave them. So I'm not walking on the beach. I'm walking barefoot. I'm not like going to lunch on the beach with them. It's just if I'm strictly going to the beach, just toes in the sand.
One of my biggest misses playing off of last week when I would say big so-and-so footwear.
Yeah.
I remember sandal related was when we had Bert Kreischer on Full Size Run, and I had assumed that he would have been a big fan of the reef sandals that had the beer bottle opener on the heel.
Classic, an absolute classic.
Which you would think would be a Bert Kreischer shoe. He loves sandals. He loves
Big
drinking beer.
Bert shoe.
And he's like, dude, that's disgusting. I would never wear them.
Said that?
Yeah.
You know what shoe I think would be super fitting for the beach right now, and a shoe that we glossed over a bit a few months ago or a few weeks ago, rather, when we published our best new sneaker designs of 2023 list, is the Nike Watercat Plus. Joe, have you seen the Watercat?
I think I mentioned it on here.
It's like perforated, right?
It's like woven on the upper.
It
so
looks like the Keen Unique.
Yes, exactly. I saw one. I went to Nike. What is the Nike House of Innovation here in Midtown, and there were a bunch of them on the shelves, and that was the first time I'd seen the shoe in person. Those look good. That would have been a perfect beach shoe.
I think people are like slowly coming around to that. I remember like mentioning that shoe. I think even like amongst all of us, like maybe like a couple months ago, and it was kind of like those aren't cool. On it, and then it's slowly starting to heat up. Nike hasn't done too much with it. There's like a few colorways. I think you brought it up on you looked it up here on one of the episodes. But yeah, the all white colorway is pretty cool. There's a purple one that kind of looks like it's like dipped.
Yeah. Also, just to mention, I did see those at the Nike House of Innovation. It's on Fifth Avenue. Yeah, but have y'all been to that store?
Oh no.
Wait, so that you're just talking about Nike Town?
Wait, can you buy them?
It's the new version of Nike Town.
Can you buy those there?
Can we just call it Nike Town?
It's not Nike Town. It's a mighty tower in celebration of Nike's incredible innovation. It's a fine store.
How far from here?
It's a 17-minute walk.
I feel like
maybe 13 minutes.
So
closer.
Working with you throughout the years, I feel like you do like to be like very like proper. This is like the actual.
You mean correct?
Actual, factual, whatever. This is like Joe. Anyways, but I also feel like you don't like to pay service to brands and like what they want you to perceive things when in actuality that's not the real thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that Nike likes to do more than have themselves perceived as a innovation brand because that's like the biggest buzzword ever around Nike.
Yes.
And I feel like calling it the House of Innovation and just saying, dude, that's Nike Town is kind of like puffing up Nike a little too much.
It's a moment of brand fealty.
Yeah, like playing into their narrative rather than the actuality of it.
I love this conversation, and I do think it's a delicate balance to try and strike, and you're absolutely correct in everything you just said of, you want to call things by the right name, but also you want to call things what they really are.
Well, there's kind of like colloquial sort of names where it's like nobody, if you just mentioned to someone like a New Yorker, have you been to the Nike House of Innovation? I guarantee you a lot of people would have no clue what you're talking about if you were like trying to use it as a landmark.
That's a good point because I thought it was an office. Having said that, what if he had a pocket protector in that left pocket with a notepad and was going through the space and checking all the innovation and then concluded this actually is a house of innovation? Would you then
a towering abode of innovation?
Exactly, just like innovation. A little inspector, like a restaurant, just going through. Okay.
Yeah, grading it on innovation.
Exactly.
It's also a different building. It's not the old Nike Town. So I do feel like it deserves a distinct name. But I just will say that I never go in there. And wow, it was popping. I didn't realize that store was that much of a draw for people. So I guess it's serving the Nike Town role in that way. And maybe it's because it was hot out and people were enjoying the AC. That's why I was in there mostly.
A lot of dry fit or no?
There's plenty of dry fit on the shelves. Yeah.
You know which has a great dry fit section? I don't know if I said it before. Where I get my socks.
Tell them where you get your socks.
Dick's, baby.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you a big dry fit guy?
Yes. That's like the base shirt uniform. Black dry fit, short running shorts. You didn't know that?
Just to live?
Well, I wore a dry
for
fit
athletic activity.
Just to live. It's funny, I like barely wear dry fit in the gym though. But
but when
I know it's bad.
I feel like you keep like a 6-pack of Nike black crew socks on you at all times.
Yes,
that's a powerful move.
Dick's and Nike crew socks. But also, I wore the dry fit shirt on last week's episode.
Right.
You didn't.
You didn't. Don't talk to me about not recognizing things. You didn't even know it was my birthday. You want me to remember the exact outfit you wore?
It's not true. We had the donuts.
What did you notice how Welty shuddered when you said Dick's?
Oh.
Yeah,
I mean, I worked. You're
triggering some memories.
If you could choose one place to go back to for a day, Foot Locker or Dick's?
You know what? Man, that's tough because Foot Locker obviously was like a cooler place to work at. Mm-hmm. I guess at the time.
Better shoes.
Yeah, better shoes. Just a different like sneaker environment because you're actually working in an actual like sneaker store
versus Dick's being a more sporting goods store.
Goods store. I worked in the footwear section of Dick's in the back, but I feel like nowadays Dick's may be a little more exciting
because of the footwear.
Not just because of the footwear, well, kind of, but
the
also
fishing gear and all the other stuff.
The golf section.
Just being in a sporting goods store for one day,
Yeah.
I think kind of edges out just being in a Foot Locker in the middle of the mall, like across the street from Annie Ann's.
I agree, because like Dick's, you may be able to get like the driving range net. You just pop up there, like you
and you're almost
procrastinate. You pop up to the third floor, hit some swings. Let's go golfing.
And I feel like we're in the sneaker space so much, and then going back into the Foot Locker, it's not that it's like part of you misses it, but you're back and just in the world that we're in, where Dick's feels like a little bit of like escapism from, you're like talking to people about like running shoes, and like you said, there's a fishing section. There's
I could see you getting
sports equipment,
some reps, maybe. Some deadlifts on the lunch break.
I think it'd be a little more. I think being in Dick's would be a little more fun for 8 hours.
I think that answer is a total reflection of where some of us stand on sneakers right now, where we feel so jaded and we've lived this life for so long that being in a Foot Locker doesn't feel that different from what thoughts are pinging around in your brain on any given day.
You're like looking at your Twitter timeline or whatever, and you just see like the same sneaker deals posted, yada yada yada, all the same stuff, and then you're just like, feel like you're transported into the same.
But Dick's, did they ever try and make you work in a different section? Sell some hunting rifles or something?
So I did. There was one day where they made me like try to cover a shift in the. I think it was in the fishing.
Oh wow!
Did you have to have qualifications for that?
This was the crazy part. So it was. I want to say that it wasn't just fishing. It was like the hunting and game section. So it was
hunting and gathering.
No, but I mean, obviously I had no
Oregon Trail.
I had no.
Great game.
South to West 8.
I didn't have to handle it, but it was like the hunting and fishing section. So like they sold guns and whatnot in the store, and there was like fishing, but there was also all the other stuff that's attached to it.
Sure.
And like, I mean, I went fishing growing up, and like I've like
caught a couple bluegills in your time.
shot trap with my dad, but I'm not like super well versed in those worlds. So when people are coming up to me like asking me questions about that stuff, I'm just like,
this one looks cool.
I don't know.
You're like, I can't necessarily get you the right rod for your fishing excursion, but I can tell you which Nike runner will best let the water flow from it when you step into that river.
Yeah. What about a Bass Pro Shop, though?
I mean,
you love them.
That would be fun. I mean, I've said my favorite retail store in America is the LL Bean flagship store in Freeport, Maine. Everyone should go visit it sometime.
LL Bean had the initials on the backpack, right?
Yeah. You had one of those with the big
I never had it.
3M reflective
it's
strip.
So weird. I never had it. It would have been perfect, JLP, and I never had them.
Yeah,
have you ever had one?
No.
Maybe we can make it happen for you,
He had a little satchel, I could tell. What? Satchel's elevated than the LL Bean. LL Bean backpack was a suburban classic.
Yeah?
We'll put it.
I don't know anything about that.
Oh, it was all over.
Yep.
All
Same
over.
for you, Welty?
Yeah, it's like one of. I feel like it's one of the
Did
most.
you have MJW?
No, I
Huge
didn't have
blind
the
spot
backpack.
for me. What is MJW?
My initials.
It was like this backpack.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I thought that was a different brand.
It was like and it was this backpack that everyone had, and it was like the 3 initials was the thing to get. I never had it.
I mean, we can make it happen for you, Joe.
Dreams come true on this podcast.
Let's hope.
Triple black.
You know what I'm dreaming of?
With the white?
I'm dreaming of a weird sneaker renaissance, and I feel like some of the Footscape stuff that's bubbling up could help us get there. Thinking of the Water Cat, I'm reminded again of the Union Jordan 1 that's coming out this summer that has that Footscape woven type section across the middle.
I get it. And I know we're always like, hey, we don't want to like judge the product until like we get everything about it. And I love Union. I love the Footscape.
Yeah.
I think Union's Jordan 1 collaborations have been some of the best ever. But it's just too much. We've seen enough pictures of the shoe where there's like, we love stories behind shoes, but there's no story you can tell me behind
That's going to make you like that shoe.
That's going to make that design element work on that model.
But if anyone could do it, Chris Gibbs could tell a story.
It should have been.
Do we know any of the story yet, or no?
No.
I could guess, but
it's also a collaboration.
Footscapes, or
it'd be speculation. I don't know.
It's also like a 3-way collaboration technically with like Beffy's
Okay, right.
So I don't know if there's some sort of story there or whatnot, which would be cool, but just the design language of the shoe. I think I've said on here that shoe would have been 10 times better if it was a low top. Just because to me it fits. I know there are like Midscape chukkas.
Yeah, well, I mean that
Footscape. Sorry,
weave
Midscape.
thing
I
is
said
from
Midscape.
Nike Air Footscape woven chukka.
Yeah.
You had a pair of those, right?
I
The
got
rainbow pair.
Yeah, the rainbow pair recently. I got them.
There's actually a rainbow-ish pair coming out next year, not of the chukka, but of the low. It's coming for January 2024. The rainbow weave on it is a little bit lighter, but like a gray and white with the rainbow. I want to see an era where that type of weird stuff is cool.
It comes back. Yeah,
or
I think
maybe not cool again. I don't think those were ever that popular aside from that rainbow pair of the Footscape woven
that was
chukka.
Definitely in. Go back and listen to it, like the Jesse Leva episode of the podcast. That was definitely his whole niche. But one Footscape collaboration that I feel like gets slept on that's so good to me is that Bodega did multiple pairs of the Footscape back in the day. And it was like, I thought it was huge that they had like a Nike collaboration then, because I feel like for a lot of boutiques it was
the
like
leather one.
Having a Nike collab was like a benchmark, where it's like a lot of boutiques didn't.
I gotta look these up while we're
I feel like a lot of the real heads appreciate the Footscape wovens, especially. I will say when I posted my rainbow ones, it was definitely met with some like, dude, these are not it.
Really?
Yeah. From like, I guess maybe
that shoe
younger,
is so
younger
recent.
sneakerheads.
How would you not know?
Yeah.
That's not
just
that
like,
old of a shoe.
Just like, these are not it. These are not it. In my
I feel like
IG comments.
There's like, we're gonna get into this more, but there's always been these kind of like warring forces within footwear. You know, when you talk about the cool sneaker space or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's people who are just only into like the traditional, like what's considered cool silhouettes, like
at that moment,
or just overall, like a Jordan 1, Air Force 1, Jordan 3, Jordan 4, like just those kind of like home run silhouettes. And then there's also a lot of other shoes in that space that have been cool over the years, but they're more like weirdo, funky shoes. And it's like, some people are into both. Some people are into one, not the other, but there's definitely like a collision sometimes between the two. And some people are like, you can't like that shoe if you're into sneakers. You know, that's not a sneakerhead shoe. And you're like, it totally is.
Yeah.
It's fine.
One of those for me, you were talking about the Bodega collabs, the Footscape ones, the Air Footscape Motion Woven TZ, the leather pair with the chunky, you know, like woven section on the side. That looks so good to me. But
I think there was a woven too that was like the Air Max 360 sole, but it was like off-white, buttery suede or hairy suede with like pink woven, and then like a pink air unit on it.
I love that type of stuff. What else am I excited for? How about these Terra Squad Air Force Ones? Are you guys excited about that?
I will be getting a pair.
I want multiple pairs. I want all colorways. So there's a white and black.
That's the one I'm going to get.
Here's the thing. Actually, I want to preface this because your boy...
Yeah. I
PG
thought about
already,
it. I thought
already
about
has
it.
a couple pairs.
PG, I thought about it, but
now,
too much.
I'm a little surprised that PG was willing to put the early pairs out there, given his history with Fat Joe.
They have the JC on the back. Not talking about Jersey City.
Wait, what?
Joey Crack.
Oh, so wait, he got an early pair.
He has two early pairs. He has the white and black. He also said, don't quote me on this release information, but I'm going to go ahead and quote him.
Baby blue.
Yeah, I think that colorway is called Porpoise. So he was saying that the white and black, he believes, based on what he knows, is more the general release, and that the white and blue is exclusive maybe to Up NYC or maybe to New York. And then that there's a gray and pink one that's a friends and family. To me, this is, you know, we have to have a weekly Tiffany Air Force One segment, right?
Yeah.
It's a requirement. It's in our contract. This shoe is 10 times better than that.
Yeah, of course.
Joe, can you agree?
Which colorway? All of them?
Just the project in general. This is a real celebration of what the Air Force One really means. Better. Yeah, I pulled out my pocket protector and I did crunch the numbers.
I'd have to think about that. I like
Can we
both.
sneak this onto the top 10 sneakers of the year list?
Maybe. The black and white? Or the gray? Which one?
Any of them.
The gray and pink probably, but I'm going to get the black and white.
I always hold it with the caveat of, I'm not talking about hype or resale value, but you just need to like wait and see how a sneaker is received in the market before you.
You're right. I'm getting too excited.
Put it because it. Not that it doesn't matter if a shoe doesn't sell out instantly, but if it's just like something comes out and then like a month later it's almost like kind of forgotten about.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is going to happen to that shoe, but just sneaker projects in general, you just have to wait and see how they play out.
What I would say about this shoe, 10 times better, I'm not sure. I like haven't thought about it, it's a shoe that you want to own. It takes me back to all the videos where he was like, you would catch a glimpse of an Air Force One.
Yeah, what is that? In a music video, just very briefly, a few frames.
That's exactly like, and it's just a shoe that I want to own. Black and white. That's the one black and white, a little too white for me or no? No, I think there's enough black. Huh?
Little too panda?
No, I knew you were going to say panda. That's why I pointed at you when he started the discussion, but I don't care. I don't even mind the pandas. I've said that on record.
I like that shoe a lot.
Which one's your favorite colorway out of these three?
I don't know. We haven't seen much of the gray and pink, right?
No.
Okay.
Do you like black and white better than the light blue one that you saw?
I'll take the light blue one because I remember Fat Joe saying that's his favorite color, that baby blue. Yeah. Okay. How about Eli Manning licking the sole?
Yeah.
Come on.
Shouts to my boy Dylan. Shouts to my boy Dylan. He knows. He's a content machine, and he's the one who got me Eli Manning on sneaker shopping. And Eli Manning came to my apartment. Do you guys remember that? Eli Manning came to my apartment.
Yes.
And gave me the Saquon shoes.
Yes.
Yeah. Big moment. Huge moment in my footwear history.
In your life.
In my life, yes. Shouts to Dylan. But yeah, even Eli was forced to lean back. You saw?
But let me ask you this: does Eli licking the sole of the shoe not place that colorway above the white and black for you? Because I think no.
I respect it, but black and white still.
Here's the question, though. So you had just proposed the question to Joe. Do you think the shoe's 10 times better than the Tiffany Air Force One, right? And Joe said he wasn't ready to answer it. But let's transport ourselves into a make-believe situation, right?
I love this.
So Fat Joe is sat besides us in the studio, right? Hypothetically. And we're talking to him about shoes. And he says, Joe, tell me my shoe is 10 times better than the Tiffany Air Force One, which I can picture that happening.
Playing out.
Yeah. Would if Fat Joe asked you that, what would you tell him?
I'm not ready to say that. What you think? What
you can't commit to it just yet?
I think you would.
What do you think he was going to throw me out of the studio?
I don't know.
I talked to him fairly enough. I talk to him often. 10 times. I'm not ready to say that. I just said I want the shoe. What about? Yeah, you worry about him. Okay, not me. Okay,
you're good with TS.
Okay, might as well get the chain. Ask Mayor. We good. No, Fat Joe, we good. Joey Crack. Good hypothetical though. I will say, I thought about it for a second when I saw PG.
About buying the pairs from him?
A little negotiating. Yeah, I saw a little. I thought about that. They went quick though. Quick.
He sold them already.
He sold those in he posted them and then he sold them in 10 minutes, I think.
Good for him. I'm happy for Paul. Yeah, actually, no, not good for him. I'm not happy for him until he comes on here.
There were a few people hitting him up being like, dude, if you have those in a size 10, I need them right now.
Really?
Yeah. Like well-known people were like, people who you would think would just be getting them, whatever,
on the arm,
are that like clamoring for them.
So sounds like a top 10 sneaker of the year to me.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to them. I would love to be discussing that with Fat Joe potentially on the Complex Com panel. That'd be fire.
He'll be taking notes. He'll be keeping you honest.
I don't want to. I don't
be at California Pizza Kitchen when that's happening.
Don't. You said you'd put in a bid on it, but don't want to reveal it.
No, don't
yet. But just saying, upcoming. There's a big thing that Joe put in a bid in that's going to be revealed on air.
Yeah,
I know what it is. Right?
Okay. And you guys are cool with me. I feel like we got to reveal it.
Yeah.
Now. Air. No.
When I come back from vacation.
Even if it's 5 minutes. Even if it's it could be a lot less than his bursting. But
you brought it up, not me. You brought it up, not me.
But just like 5 minutes. I figured just because people were looking at me crazy that episode, and that's the only thing we'll say.
All right. You know what I'm really excited about? Last bit of sneaker news.
No. We can keep going. We got lots to talk about.
Got hit up. So NJ Skate Shop, who's done Nike sneaker collab, Nike SB sneaker collabs in the past,
including
they did the Toxic Avenger dunks. I think they did the high hair ones.
High hair.
I don't think there's other ones that I'm probably missing. Either way, but they got a collaboration with New Balance. NJ Skate Shop has a shop in Jersey City. They did a Jersey. It's yet to be revealed, I guess, or it's been hinted at. But They're doing a Jersey City New Balance.
Is your face on the insole?
Are you going to be like the inflatable person outside the store on release day? And, you know, just like, what is it, the inflatable tube?
He's going to have the sign.
Well,
He's going to have the big sign, flipping it, spinning it on his finger.
On release day, they're going to put you in the front. They have to. Like, just go in like this with like the inflatable.
Or you can, you know those old Getty images of the New Balance, I think it's a 992 or 993 suit with the big googly eyes? They need to get you dressed up in one of those for this release.
I think they actually did I think they had mentioned online that it's like a pre-order situation that they're for the shoe. So I don't think there's an actual like big lineup where it's like you put in your size and then you'll end up getting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was cool that they're doing a Jersey City New Balance based around.
Are you going to get involved in the
Roosevelt
release?
Stadium?
Yeah, and how are you connected to it?
Oh, they hit me up about it. I don't know, not to do anything, but. There's not like I'm not going to become that, like you said. I'm not going to be there to be a mascot meet and greet Matt Welty at NJ Skate Shop in Jersey City. I mean, I don't know. It hasn't been offered.
I'm picturing a line around the block.
A little meet and greet. What if you just say $50K for a walkthrough? Please don't panic. All right, was it $50K for?
They also did the Born in the USA Bruce Springsteen.
That Nike Dunk High.
Yeah.
That was NJ Skate Shop?
I believe so as well.
Okay.
There's like a bunch of because like Toxic Avenger is from New Jersey as well.
All of Jersey's biggest cultural exports put Matt Welty on that list.
Yeah.
Look at you. The video, what was the DJ? What's the DJ? DJ Esco was just $50K for a walkthrough. Don't panic. That's going to be you in New Jersey?
One more sneaker news tidbit I want to mention, and this may be a little bit too early, but I heard this from someone who I trust, so I do want to mention it, and I think it's something we can all get excited about. Someone told me there's a big bubble Air Max 95 retro anniversary
Big bubble, more like big JLP shoe.
Planned for
Neon?
2025.
Neon?
I think they'll bring out OG colorways.
Has to be.
Here for it.
Imagine if we get 95s back with the big boy on them.
The big body?
You know?
The big body bubble?
I mean,
Yeah.
I've been alluded. I feel like that's been like alluded to, like over the past few years. I've brought it up in the. I mean, I think we like.
Yeah.
I said hypothetically, I'm like, what if they did this? You know. I think I actually when I went to
somebody in Beaverton's taking notes.
When I went to Nike camp, no, I
idea.
asked Nike that directly in like 2018, I believe, when I went to campus and they did the Air Max 720.
Yeah, and that was an era when they were boasting about
how big the bubble
bubbles
is
they could make, and the 270 was the tallest air
when did
unit
you go
ever.
To campus?
2018.
Who went?
Sorry, what?
Who went with you?
It was for that.
Like he has to have an escort?
No, I'm wondering. I don't remember this trip.
No, it was for when they did like that. It was like the year after like the Sean Weatherspoon Air Max one where they had done. It was like that regional Air Max design thing they did in like in New York City. They did a Seoul, Korea.
Yeah, I have those 97s.
Yeah, so it was the Shanghai 97s, like the light blue with the red. Yeah, it was for that where they had like the creators there doing the shoes, but they also were doing Air Max 720, the full length bubble. And they're like got to interview the person who makes the airbags themselves. And what I want to know is that why aren't the airbags? I know the reason why is because the original pressurized airbags had greenhouse gases in them, so they had to make them smaller because that's why they weren't as big as the OG ones because they couldn't literally pump them up as much. But I was like, so how come if you can make the air bubble this big now, how come you don't do
that on retro pairs?
And then they were like, oh well, maybe there'll be some of that in the future. But that was like 2018. So.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing those again. Just one person who I trust mentioned it to me super early. We'll see when we can solidify that news, but it's something I'm excited about, and I'll spend my hard-earned money on some.
Fingers crossed.
Joe's got his fingers
like this. Please.
crossed over here. Should we talk about the sneakers we're wearing?
Yes, we should.
Welty, what do you got on?
Shout out Joe Freshgoods. Great dude. Go watch his episode of the podcast as well. Pandemic era. Would love to get him
Need him sitting right here.
Yeah, physically.
in studio with us. But these are the New Balance 610 trail collaboration that he did.
Okay.
I forgot that there were two colorways of those. I told you that as we sat down here. I was kind of second guessing myself. I have the other one. I wore them upstate. It felt like a proper upstate show. I was on a farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing the Solomon XT4 OG. Just one that's in my rotation now.
I have those in like the red colorway.
Red,
It's
like orange.
it's like red to gradient to yellow,
Mm-hmm.
and just such a. Remember the whole era of like bright red shoes.
You're not gonna wear them?
I just haven't
Like the Red October era?
What
yeah,
size?
where everyone it came in.
Do you have
all
one
red.
here? Maybe I'll take
11.
them.
No, I
I'll
just haven't.
Venmo-
I just haven't.
Maybe I'll Venmo you.
He said
Get-
take them at first.
I want to
didn't
wear
know
them, but
any money was being exchanged.
hey, question about Solomon's, because you've been wearing them a lot lately, and I obviously love Solomon,
Yep.
but are they weird to wear in the summertime?
No, but I wanted to talk heavy.
No, just because like the shoes, like
breathable it is.
it's like
Well, I wanted to talk about
kind of
that.
waterproofy or weatherproof.
I wanted to talk about that when we get to
Okay.
the topic
Okay.
a little bit. These, I don't feel it. No.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it
pretty
was
light
like
to me,
a sweaty shoe.
but I definitely wanted to bring that up and
Mm-hmm.
see how that plays into what we're probably going to get to very
Yep.
soon.
I'm doing a Nike Air Max 1 from 2010. This is the scuba blue pair. Black and white colorway. You could almost call him a panda. I remember fondly waiting for this package to arrive when I was in college. I remember exactly where I was when I finally found the package, unlike my packages these days that actually showed up.
Isn't there a article on sneakernews.com from back in the day where it was like Brennan Dunn's like top 10 favorite shoes of all time, and that shoe happens to be on it?
Yes, the memory is always impeccable. Yeah, obviously not an incredibly important shoe in the pantheon of great Nikes or great sneakers in general, but I was hyped to have them.
Is it still in your like?
No.
Okay.
Especially because we're in an era right now where we're so spoiled when it comes to sneaker retros and brands working hard to get shapes and materials right.
And you know that one's like not it.
Yeah, I mean, back then it was exciting, but when I go and put on a shoe from 2010 in that era of Air Max 1s, and it just feels flimsy in comparison to the stuff they've been making lately.
I also feel like, and we can transition into this too, is that like the archive of like things that have come out since then is just so much deeper and so much vast, where it was like in 2010 it was like if you wanted to be a sneakerhead, not that there wasn't cool and exciting things out there, but it was like more like slim pickings of like the models that you could actually purchase on market. Like if you wanted to get something that was just a little bit different, you had to really dig deep and try to find a OG pair.
Yeah.
Versus like now it's like not everything's available, but there's just so many other styles available at sneaker stores.
The shoe's also a little bit big on me. Of course, I bought these before Matt Welty changed my life, and it made me realize that I'm a size 10.
I know we joke about that, right? But do you feel like now that you're like size 10 fits you better, or do you feel like you just wear 10 and a half? I don't know.
I'm paranoid about it. I try and buy size 10s these days when I'm buying sneakers. There's also a spot of mesh on them, just like that Action Bronson New Balance that we talked about a few. And you know what? The soles are a little squeaky, so who knows how much life they have left in them.
And you're going on a trip. Are you taking those?
Yeah,
It's
I'm testing it out as a travel sneaker.
Okay, how many pairs are you bringing on your trip? What's in the rotation?
The loafers,
Okay,
a pair of Brooks running shoes,
good one.
yeah, and these Air Max ones.
Okay,
But you know, if the soles fall apart, I mean,
you have to cop.
who knows, you know.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Action Bronson New Balance, and then I guess this transitions in here, we saw a few weeks ago, or like 2 weeks ago, where he had previewed a unseen pair of New Balances, 1906R, on
I've seen them, but
on stage. Yeah.
no, there's some more colorways, but we'll talk about that later.
But he had also, we're like, oh, is it a collaboration or not? You know, and you saw the laces up close, and it's definitely like a similar style lace to the ones that were on the 990
Yep.
V6. But 2 days ago from now,
Wait, what?
no, from today, like from when we're recording this, not 2 days from when you guys are
Got it.
watching this. He had posted on Instagram another teaser.
Wait, 2 days from.
2 days
I know,
ago.
Okay, you
2
said
days
from-
ago from today.
Got it.
2 days ago, he had posted like a teaser, and I don't know if it was like a mesh bag or something, but it was an orange like mesh background, and it had New Balance on one side, and then it said "Specialized in Life," which is kind of like the tagline for his New Balance line in a 3M font. So that is that. So
Oh, it is.
yeah,
It is the one that he wore on stage.
yeah.
Yeah. They're working on some stuff.
I feel like that brings us to our topic.
Yep.
Keep me honest here. Obviously, a lot of sneakerheads have been into kind of like the mesh New Balance, the Asics,
Early 2000s sort of footwear.
and then exactly early 2000s. Would you say that 2017, 2018 was like the dad shoe boom, or is that late? I just remember being on episodes of Sneaker Shopping around 2017, 2018 and asking about like the dad shoe phenomenon. Would you say that was the start of the boom or what? You're better at like the years.
So. I would say like that era. I would say that's like 2017, 2018 was like when New Balance first started. Not that New Balance had moments before, but that's like when all of a sudden like the 990 caught fire. Like the V4 was like a big thing at that moment. And I remember like putting you onto the V4 at that moment. There was a salmon colored pair of that shoe that was super limited. It was just kind of like not like a test run, but just like not a special collaboration or anything. And it came out, sold out. And I remember Macklemore wanted the shoes.
Yeah, we tried to get him
getting the shoes. I hit up the people at New Balance and I was like, hey, look, Macklemore, and this is before New Balance really caught on. And I'm like, hey, Macklemore really wants a pair of these shoes. Yeah. I'm like, I know there's no more of them left. I'm like, is there any way that like you have any of the fabric left in the factory?
Wow.
And you can just like
were going to take a road trip up there and put them together
or just like make him the shoes.
My friend Ben.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for the time, it would have been a good big look for New Balance for
absolutely
him to co-sign it. And he was huge in not that he's not huge in footwear. Shout out to his Bogey Boys collaboration. Did pretty well recently with Adidas, but I thought it would have been a big like co-sign for the brand, given his whole like Jordan history of and the hype around it. But
that feels like the genesis of it to me, especially when you think about the Balenciaga Triple S was kind of this it's not a shoe that I like, but it was kind of the extreme Frankenstein version of that design language, and I think helped put it out there in the most
chunky,
cartoony way. Yeah, what a chunky shoe could look like. And the term dad shoe, I think, has evolved a little bit since we first started using it half a decade ago. But to me, that's what it meant back then. And then you have the Wave Runner Adidas Yeezy 700, which I think was the first super popular modern dad shoe. And it all ties into because Steven Smith designed that sneaker and designed a lot of the New Balances that now are the foundation of what people think of when they think of dad shoes. So it was all related design-wise.
And someone who I grew up with was like, oh, you need to get me on Sneaker Shopping. We'll shop for some
dad shoes.
New Balance dad shoes. I was like, New Balance is crushing right now. And he was like, yeah, but I meant like these, and it was like the 608.
Now 624 and things like that.
Now I feel like that is like, now I feel like the term dad shoe is like maybe reserved because that's what the shoes that my dad wears, the 608s. Like, and what we'll get into is like, is it really, they're not, to me, they're like performance runners. Performance.
It's shifting. It's shifting.
Yeah, well, I feel like
it's shifting.
It could have taken two turns, you know, because at the same time that New Balance became popular, right? There was also that weird moment where like all of a sudden, very ironically speaking, and I feel like it didn't have as much legs because the thing about New Balance to me is that even though people are like, these are dad shoes, et cetera, you know, these are whatever, they're rooted in something good and tangible and like worthwhile, right?
Meaning performance running.
Or they're just like expensive shoes made out
craftsmanship,
made out of great materials and great quality, right? And then at the same time, ironically, the Nike Monarch became a thing, which is
Nike Monarch 4.
It's a big dad shoe, one of Nike's biggest selling SKUs of all time.
Jason Maiden, right?
Yes, that's right.
But I think he did the Monarch 2, or am I bugging? Anyways,
I think he designed the 4.
Anyways, but it could have gone either way. But I feel like the Monarch thing of being ironically into the shoe wasn't rooted in anything that was long lasting.
And you feel like that's why it petered out?
Yeah, because it was just like, hey, I'm jokingly looking like my dad, you know. But where the New Balance was more of like an appreciation of these are the shoes that my dad may wear, but maybe like my taste or maybe like more maturing. It's like the father shoe, not the dad.
Like that.
Not the dad
got
shoe.
It. Got it.
And Steven Smith had even said too, where he's like, "Oh, why are these desirable, or why are they viewed as like this covetable thing?" And he's like, "You think about the idea of a dad, right? And like he's like a strong figure that has his life under control and like his finances."
Doesn't sound familiar at all.
And you know, has a sorry, and like maybe he has like a nice watch or whatever, and it's like there's like some sort of like comfortingness to it. And he said that that's why he thought that the idea of father's footwear.
It's like stability.
Yeah, where people look towards it.
Yeah. And I think, too, that New Balance had its own versions of the dad shoe that you could compare to the Monarch that
The 620.
624, like the New Balance shoes that you would buy at Costco is what I think about the most. But that version of dad shoe, white leather with navy trim and things like that I think was bigger in the early era of this term and this wave, and I think had a lot to do also with normcore popping off at the time. And this part of it is ironic, but part of it also just wanting to look as plain as possible. But to me, that has subsided now to where when you think about dad shoe, it is still about chunkiness to an extent, and I think a chunky sole is maybe the hallmark of that style still. But now that term, I think we use it to describe a lot of 2000s things that were relatively affordable, but performance running shoes at the time, things that now Aimé Leon Dore is working on with New Balance, or just a wider array.
I think it's like it's interesting because, you have New Balance 990, and it's like maybe like a very like suburban shoe, but then it also was like a very real like DMV era like hustler shoes. So it gave it like that much of like credibility where like there was a whole built-in audience that of like
a totally separate audience.
Yeah, that gave a legitimate cosign to that footwear, where it's like the Monarch and stuff like that never had that.
Yeah.
So it was able to propel it forward and like make it cool to some degree within a certain audience.
And never forget that Nike was trying to make the Monarch a cool, ironic thing at the time too, taking it back to Seattle.
They actually did a Father's Day version of it too. That was like a sneakers only.
Yeah, exactly. They did a Pete Carroll version of it, right?
Yes.
Talking about Macklemore. Yeah, exactly.
I got that. The blue and green ones.
And there was the Martine Rose collaboration.
Yes.
That looked like they'd been put in a microwave with the big bubbles on
yes.
it.
That's just
the wrong kind of bubbles on the shoe.
Martine Rose did like the slip-on shocks, and I feel like that shoe's
I love those.
A lot more well received. It was like that.
Those are dope.
That Monarch was just like, it just wasn't it. It was just like, I see what you're trying to do, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But getting to like this now, there's like, this is another boom for sure.
We've seen. I mean, I don't think feels like it's just the continuation.
But I didn't pay full attention this weekend or over the weekend. I saw the 3 Asics.
The 2160s.
That were like, I think you commented like they're just running shoes that you would find on the shelves.
Yeah, they were never. We mentioned this previously. It's like all these shoes now. I don't want to create this false narrative. There's a lot of people who are like, "Oh yeah, but if you were in the know, these shoes were cool back then." It's like
everything is a classic. You use this.
No,
word
they weren't
classic.
But
classic.
They were great shoes. They were great shoes in the sense that these were like great running sneakers.
Like the Kayano.
Yeah,
served their purpose.
Yeah, yes. I remember the gel Kayano was like the best running shoe.
It was the best running shoe on the market
for decades. Like I just remember that was the cross country shoe. And when I was in high school, all the way up to recently, and like to your point, I don't know. There was a lot of people that wore it outside.
There
of
was
the
no one
trails.
who like they were like, oh, like how like there's always this kind of like narrative where people were like, oh, but the few cool guys knew about it.
They didn't wear the Kayano.
No, there was nobody.
Only Anders Holm.
There was nobody. Exactly. I feel like I've heard stories like kind of like maybe in like Australia or maybe in like Northern Europe that were like these models did have some sort of like streetwear-ish like.
Which ones? The Asics ones in particular?
Yeah. Especially Asics gel. I feel like I've heard that it's a thing in Australia where it kind of similar to a TN vibe. But beyond that, there is no real like, you're not going to find photos of like
cool people
or like
from the 21st century wearing these shoes.
Yeah, there's not like I saw this rapper wearing the shoes back then and like he was onto it early. It's like it doesn't exist.
Yeah. And one thing, I don't know if we're bouncing around, but like the ALD 860.
Yeah, that's a thing right now.
Is that a dad shoe? Are we calling that a dad shoe?
I don't think so. I don't think it's a dad shoe. I just think it's encapsulating the mesh runner. And I'm wondering,
clean mesh, silver synthetic panels.
I'm wondering, and I see them a lot, like on the street. When I see them a lot, they look very. I know that you have a pair.
Yeah.
You have a pair too, right?
Yeah.
And I see them a lot on the street, and it's a shoe that I probably wouldn't wear, but they look great when I see them out. And I'm wondering, and I think I see them downtown, and I'm wondering, is there any way that he could do what he did with the 550 with this 860?
In terms of making it as hot as a 550? I feel
Yes,
like the stage.
yes.
I feel like the stage
Is
is
it
set.
possible?
I don't know if that's the exact model, and I don't know if New Balance is going to put the resources behind it to make it that. But I feel like the stage is set to take us there because the 550 arrived at a time when these relatively plain leather, low mid-ish shoes were right in vogue. Nike's Dunk obviously had a ton to do with that, and the 550 was
Air Force One as well.
Yeah, in the same vein. Now, I think we need a lot more propping up of this 2000s retro runner mesh and synthetic panels for the 860 V2 to become a thing on the level of the 550. I don't think it will, but I think it could, and I think if anybody's going to do it, it's
Do you
Teddy.
think that one over the 1906, or do you think we're going to see which one rises?
Maybe both. I mean, it's like you saw the first semblances of it with the 2002 R being such a mainstream shoe.
Yeah, that is the one, actually. That one did that way more than 860 V2
Do you
or
think
anything
that one
else.
is still the most popular out of those three?
I think so. Maybe it's like shift.
Still.
Yeah.
2002
but like,
R.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe like the tastes are starting to slowly shift.
Okay.
But with that said, it's funny because the 860 V2, it's similar to the Nike Vomero in its arc story, where it's like in 2018 the shoe was retroed in the original colorway, and they actually did 2 collaborations with Dime Montreal, who now doing the 2160. Oddly enough, there was a white pair and then like a navy and black pair with gold writing on it, and that shoe just went so under the radar.
Yeah,
at that moment,
those are hard.
But nobody was in, like, it was ahead of
New
its
Balance
time.
thing was still gaining steam. It wasn't where it's at right now.
That mesh runner thing, it just wasn't it. And I look back at those shoes and I'm like, man, those were so early. It's just like there's a bunch of Vomeros that came out like 2019, like the white and like green pair, which I don't think look great by
SP pairs, the white and the black. I have.
Yeah, I
one
don't
of
think
those.
there's like a
ahead of my time as always.
There's like a crimson red pair as well. I don't think those shoes look
Wasn't
good.
there like an electric green too?
Yeah, I don't think they look good, but they were like early iterations of brands trying to step into this playground and like not really it working out.
But let's dissect going back to like the Kayano, or even like, would you consider like the Gel 1130 as one?
Same shoe. It's like so they had.
Why is it happening now?
I don't know. So it's funny because for
the collaborators,
historical references, Asics had 3. They had more than 3 running shoes, but you had the Kayano, which was the top end shoe. So the Kayano was probably $140. I think the 21 series was like 2120, 2130, 2140, 2160 now was like $100 to $120. And then there was the 11 series, so like 1130, which was between $80 and $100. So they were like price tiered out.
Sure.
And the Kayano had the most gel.
Yeah.
2160 had a little bit more gel, and the 1130 had like the least amount of gel. And people were like, well, what's the difference between the shoe? Why are you trying to charge me more? And I'm like, I would bring out all 3 sometimes and be like, just try them on.
good
and
sales tactic.
But they're very
As per usual.
very similar in
bringing 3 out,
construction.
yep.
But we're like, Asics out of all the brands at the time was not trying to rip you off and like, why is this shoe more money? It looks the same, but it felt different.
Do we think, and I want to keep returning to this question because I think it's interesting, do we think what Asics is doing right now is that dad shoe? Sometimes I see the Jound Asics and people refer to that as a dad shoe. Is that a dad shoe?
It just feels like I label it like performance runner that has hit the streets.
Retro running.
That's what retro running.
I
That's what I don't look at it as.
It's not chunky enough.
Yeah, no, I just don't put it in the category of like
I don't know.
for whatever undefined.
You think so, Welty?
is.
I think so because
You do.
It's connected to that normcore
2 years ago,
look.
Normcore, yeah, fair.
2 years ago, I had received some shoes from Asics at the time, and they sent me a pair of Kayano 14s, the retro. It was an all gray pair with a white midsole. And I remember at the time, so I was wearing like 990s, but like the Kayano was like a little sportier, but it was definitely a lot more like suburban dad than the 990s were. Even though the 990s is like a huge suburban dad shoe, the Kayano was like another step towards that whole aesthetic. And I remember at first I was like, I don't.
You weren't sure if you could do it.
Yeah, I remember like putting them on and like I was like wrestling with it in my head a little bit. I'm like,
What was the dialogue?
it was just like,
Is it part of this thing of trying too hard to
Or just
intentionally look
remembering-
uncool in order to look cool?
or remembering where these shoes came from.
Your experiences with them.
Yes, and like not trying to create this like false narrative of like those were hot back in the day,
Yeah.
and like just knowing what I'm putting on right now, I felt like, man, this is so
Like you were lying to yourself.
Yeah, but then I ended up like wearing them like casually, just like out to the store. And
Yeah.
but they're pretty comfortable. And then like they just started like looking like a little better. And then I think last year, like a year and a half ago, there was a HAL Studios, Highs and Low. They did a first pair, which was like Australia exclusive, which is like a brown suede. And
You're a big fan of those. Ronnie Feig is a big fan of those.
that shoe came out, and everyone, like when I started wearing them online, I didn't know people realized it. They're like, yo, that shoe is dope. I remember wearing the shoe in New York, and I went to Nepenthes and having them on feet, and the guy working there was like, yo, I was wondering what those looked like on feet. They look, not that they look bad, but he's like, they look even better on feet than they did on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so this is like this
is a thing. People know about this.
I remember posting it, and Ronnie said to me, he's like, oh, Matt from Highs and Lows did a really good job designing the shoe.
Those are good. Those are good.
He's like, that's not an easy model to make look cool, and he did it. So, and then now Ronnie has this whole Asics pack this summer where he has the 1130 and the Kayano 14, which those shoes are like, it feels like they're taking off, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I also like this style and this trend, or whatever you want to call it, because to me, these shoes feel like the opposite of a Panda Dunk. In terms of
Fair point.
in terms of the era they're from,
Fair point.
the design,
They come from a different planet.
the attention, and it feels like kind of the right. I don't want to say answer because they were happening at the same time to an extent, but the right yin to the yang.
It's the opposite end of the spectrum, and you're seeing them on the street.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
They're like sprinkled in. One interesting thing I thought of, I want to get your take on it. Do you think Balenciaga doing the fashion runner had anything to do with the uptick in sneakerheads wearing the casual runners?
You mean that shoe that looks a lot like
has
an
like the
Asics?
Asics?
Yeah. Justin Bieber wore them, right?
Well, prominent like hip hop artists and people are still wearing them.
Yeah, I think that contributed, although I think that if we want to give Balenciaga credit in this arena, no pun intended, honestly, total accident. That's just how my brain works.
It took me a second.
That they deserve credit for the triple S more than anything.
Okay.
Just taking it back to the purest version of dad shoes. That shoe, I think, influenced things in a huge way.
They were part of the dad shoe with the triple S. It seems like this shoe, obviously, everyone, I think you could like Google Balenciaga Asics and it pops up. That's how
Those are kind of nice to me.
That's how much
were they not, 3 times the price of a regular running sneaker?
It's one that
I'd be interested in
it's
it.
the one that you look at and you think about it more than maybe you thought you would.
Yeah,
Like when you see them.
We talk about, the 860 V2 being such a shoe that like the ALD version, but we also forget ALD 827. There was like the 3 colorways of it. There's like the white and yellow. There's like the white and red with the green and blue.
I have to actually look
there was
at
a,
that. That's
I have
one thing
those.
with New Balances. I do get the numbers
the
mixed
woman
up.
who was sitting, Brendan, the woman who was sitting next to Alexander Arnault courtside,
And you were like,
was wearing.
Yes, these are hard.
Yep.
But I feel like that was one of the. They didn't really catch on at the moment because it was like people had known ALD
Early.
for like 990 V2 was like their first like big shoe. It was like the first kind of look into that like style becoming a thing, and I feel like maybe if they release now, they'd be well received a little better.
I kind of want a pair of those.
And it's funny too. So people talk about the 2002 R being one of the shoes that kind of like sparked this trend. Obviously 1906. So people don't know that shoe, the 2002 and the 1906 are both actual like archival shoes from New Balance that were much more of a like a white mesh gauge runner. But the thing was they like the Kayano, they had a full like gel midsole on it. That's not something that New Balance makes anymore.
Okay.
So they actually took the midsole from the 860 V2, and that's what's on the 2002 R. That's why 2002 R. It's not the New Balance 2002.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I had interviewed the designer of the New Balance 2002, like when that shoe first came out.
The original shoe.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, he was like, dude, I never thought that, and that shoe was super expensive at the time. I think it was like a $200+ sneaker. And he's like, I never thought that this shoe was going to be like a big thing. I never thought that you'd be talking to me 10 years later, interviewing me about it. I remember like I found a blog post from Ronnie Feig at the time on like his Kith NYC blog where he used to just like post blog stuff, and he's like, New Balance just sent me these. They're like crazy comfortable. I think they're like the top performance shoe on the market. And we talk about these dad shoes and these like shoes that talk about like father stability, whatever you want to call it. And he said that when he designed the New Balance 2002 originally, he had his deck and he had the CEO in mind, not the New Balance CEO, but just it was like the CEO mindset shoe. So he had a mood board of like the New Balance CEO at the time, and I think he had like some crazy like sports car, and he also had like a Audemars Peugeot watch that like somehow this was the lifestyle of the person who was purchasing this $200
person who's into this stuff,
this $200 plus like techie.
How do you feel about that?
It's interesting to see where like it was never intended to be like cool in that era of culture, because you look at that era of culture of what moved culture.
When did the shoe first come out?
I think, oh man, I'm gonna get this year wrong, but I want to say it was like 2008, 2009, like that
late
era.
2000s.
Yeah, and you think about more like patent Air Force Ones and like Yeezy One and like that stuff. Like it wasn't what was influencing street culture in any form or fashion. But now you look back at it and you see like the little elements and threads of like maybe the sneakerheads are getting older as well. And like the people who are making decisions at the brands are getting older as well. And they're like, maybe they're like looking to make things that are like appeal to their age demographic a little more and make them cool, you know?
And you can't talk CEO sneakers and New Balance without mentioning Steve Jobs, of course. I feel like his looks with the New Balance 99Xs helped make that shoe iconic.
Well, I remember it because I remember talking to, we'd mentioned it 2 weeks ago, our friend Rob Stewart, Glasgow Rob, when I interviewed him originally about the New Balance shoe coming back, he goes, look.
Which shoe?
Just the New Balance trend, like in 2017 when the New Balance trend was coming back or becoming a thing. And he goes, look at it. He's like, you want to talk about great design? He's like, the shoe's co-signed by Steve Jobs. Yeah. Who knows more about design than Steve Jobs?
That's dope.
Please go read my interview with the original people who put together the New Balance 992, which was centered around Steve Jobs wearing it.
Definitely go read that. We'll put the screenshot.
Yeah.
Thank you. Question, though. I remember during the dad shoe 2018 or 20...
The peak,
I would say the Kanye Wave Runner was a big part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, Stephen Smith,
Is it going to be weird if this trend really takes off and there's no Kanye footwear part of it?
Yeah, I think so, because I think that a lot of those shoes they were making helped set the stage for this.
Right? Like, I feel like he was fully leaned into kind of like that shoe. So I'm wondering...
in a really intentional way, too, because of Stephen Smith, like hiring him specifically because of all the shoes he'd done in the past.
I had an interesting convo. So our friend Anders, who was on here, right? I feel like this is like the whole part of the conversation that we had with him about like all of these shoes. And we've been like really digging at like what's like the core that's leading this like trend or whatever. And he gave me this huge...
Which trend?
Just this whole like
mesh
runners,
but also like trail, because I feel like trail hiking shoes are like stuff like this are like adjacent to it. And he gave me his whole thesis, and I just want to... He goes, sneakers used to be just for kids. Kids play sports like basketball, so kids would buy the most advanced footwear for the things they wanted people to think they could do. Play basketball. Now adults wear sneakers, but everyone knows adults are generally not playing basketball. What do adults do? They run and hike. So now we wear the most advanced footwear for the thing we want people to think we do. Wearing basketball shoes as an adult is almost like putting on a costume. You're dressing up as the coolest kid from your middle school.
Wow. He really thought this through. We might have to give him a byline for that.
We need to give him a quote card for that.
Yeah, he's going to send us an invoice.
But I guess it makes sense.
Did he say we could say that?
Well, I'll ask him, but we'll put it out.
I'll ask him after we record it.
Okay.
We can always cut it.
He's on the record?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, but like you talk about like, you know, as you get older, it's like how you want to participate. Like people do still play basketball. I'm not like trying to put out there like you don't play basketball, so don't misconstrue it. But it's like it just feels like
the controversy.
No. It just feels like an average. It's like a lot of people just try to like be active and get exercise. They go for a hike or they just go for a walk or a run. So they want to get shoes that fit that lifestyle. Yeah. So maybe like that's where the interest in the shoes is coming from.
Super random. Is anyone watching The Bear?
No.
Oh man. Okay. Lionel Boyce on there. DeStefano interviewed the costume designer.
Yeah.
First of all, great show. I did 9 episodes in like one day, but it's based in Chicago.
Yeah.
And one of the characters, Marcus, is wearing a pair of infrared 6s, beat up. And when I tell you, they look so...
Brought the feeling back for you?
Restored.
Don C, yay.
Yes, restored the feeling so perfectly. Just a little aside.
Can we go back to what we were talking about?
Yes, sorry. But it is an aside. If you're watching, comment that you know what I'm talking about.
There's one more dad shoe I want to mention that I am happy, and I didn't even realize it went away, but it's expired now, and I'm so glad that we're seeing less of it.
Yeah.
Because to me, alongside the Balenciaga Triple S to an extent, this was one of the ones that upset me the most to see out and about. Do you know what it is?
No, I want to hear
What
it.
brand?
The brand will give it away.
Okay.
They've finally gone away, but
Hold on.
this was so heavy. In that peak before it transitioned to the mesh thing. Fila Disruptor 2.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even realize. You remember how many Fila Disruptor 2s we were
Remember
seeing?
how
They
many
made
they were
so
like
much
the sales
pre-panda-
figures?
They
Oh.
made so much
The
money off
sales
that.
figures that they were saying?
Oh my God. And I saw a pair on the train the other day, and it was like
Well, you
seeing
bet.
an old enemy where you forgot they'd even
Okay.
existed, you know?
Wow.
Well, I
I
mean,
shudder.
remember
I
that?
shudder at the sight.
They
know,
moved
that-
so
Is it
many.
am I right to say that was part of Dad Shoe era?
That was part of that, like,
chunky soul.
Yeah, that was part of that. But now I feel like because we haven't mentioned it, but just for everyone who's watching, is we talk a lot about the Vomero. Obviously, that's huge right now.
Mm-hmm.
Same era. Saucony has a handful of shoes
Mm-hmm.
coming back, and it's funny because a lot of these brands have like archives that sneakerheads have loved for a while, like Saucony and Asics, like a Gel Light 3, a Saucony Shadow 6000. But people are like not moving away from those things, but they're discovering there's other things from offerings from these brands. Wearing a brand like Saucony or Asics isn't as foreign to sneakerheads as people may think it is, because like, people like Ronnie and Extra Butter and Soulbox have all done collaborations with these brands throughout the years. So they're in the waters, but I think one of the last like thoughts I've had about this is like when we talk about like why trail footwear and why these like athletic shoes are so popular is that it's the common like adage that like all like fashion comes through purposeful
Innovation.
design, and it's like not to like play off Nike's thing, but like
Right.
these things were created.
Function.
These things were created with like functional aspects done to it. The shoe looks that way because they needed to perform a certain task. Like the Stan Smith had holes in the side of it because the sweat came out of the shoe. So it's like we're at a day and age where I feel like sneaker culture, sneaker design was designed for design's sake. Where we're like past this whole sports thing where it's like a Yeezy 350 or a Yeezy Wave Runner. It's like as much as it looks the part, there's no like real like functional design to it. It's just
other than going to the airport.
yeah, it's designed to just be like a cool looking shoe, and that's totally fine, right? But there wasn't designed where it's like, hey, this needs to be able to like breathe through a hike or like through a run or something like that. And I feel like maybe people are going back to these shoes that have all these technical aspects to them because it's all this design that was created with that in mind. And it's like now
Meaning and purpose.
now people are finding a way to take that and like manipulate it a la like a Joe Fresh Goods to like make it look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is through like everything collaboration and colorways.
Yeah.
One thing that we should say before we go, and we should not leave this topic without mentioning,
Yeah.
On and Hoka.
So big right now.
Like
That's
I
a
think
whole nother.
it is, but like seeing those on the street and maybe it's not the sneakerhead dem, but big brands have to be paying attention.
they're slowly
They
there's
have to be paying
They're
attention.
working their way in. You've seen Matt Welty on this show with Ons on his
Like,
feet.
yeah, but
I went on
slowly
vacation in 2020 and only brought the
Come on.
the Ons, or not the Ons.
Oh,
sorry,
you
the
haven't done
Hokas
Ons
is my
yet.
only sneaker. Yeah.
They're
But
all
I've never
over,
owned
and
a
it
pair of
has
Ons.
to. It's like, all right, what's going on here? And now,
What's going on?
yeah, exactly, what's going on? But now they're everywhere, and I think that's also fueling this boom
you
as
had
well.
you had mentioned it too, where it's like
Earnings call. Yeah.
where they talk about
Where he mentioned that quote, right?
yeah, or like anti-hype footwear where people are looking to just wear like regular shoes, and it's like sneakers for so like the past like pandemic era up until now, it was just so dominated by Jordan 1 and Dunk, which there obviously are iconic pieces of design, but they're the most minimalist design there is out there. It's like
clean, basic, leather.
But not saying that there isn't design elements on the shoe, but it's like the most like stripped down, like Apple Steve Jobs like version of like, we're going to give you a simplified version of a shoe, right? And it feels like as that saturated the market, it was like, we talk about natural reactions, right? In all culture and all trends. Why did chunky shoes become a thing, right? Is because the whole knit shoe, sock shoe, Adidas Ultra Boost, NMD was like the biggest thing. And you need a counter reaction to that. So what the counter reaction is these chunky dad shoes, right? Now we reach an era where like the only thing that's popular was simple Dunk, Jordan 1, leather, super clean. What's the natural reaction to that? Super technical mesh footwear with all
a lot
these panels.
going on. Yeah, exactly.
Did performance mesh runners kill the Panda Dunk? That's our headline. Is that it?
But even like Joe, even so like
Panda
a
Dunk
shoe
will
like
never
this,
die.
even a shoe like this. So like talk about like something like Solomon, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like one of the adjacent outdoorsy brands. I know you guys said you don't really see as many like
Not that
suburban
model, the
dads
Wander?
wearing it, but I do see people just wearing who aren't into sneakers.
Solomons?
Yeah, just wearing a Solomons out in the wild.
I don't see it that much.
People
but
who would probably bought them at like REI and just have it.
All right.
But I remember at first it was like you were kind of like testing the waters with Solomon, you know, like they had hit us up and I was like, oh, you know, are you into Solomon? And I think at the time you were like, oh, like I'll check it out, you know,
dip
you
my
like
toe into
it
the
wasn't,
water.
and you ended
It's
the
not a
first
water
pair
talk.
you end up
I'm a water sign.
getting was that tie-dye pair,
Yeah.
right? And that was like your first like introduction to the brand, but it took that like little bit of convincing to like step outside of like the sneakerhead comfort zone, and then all of a sudden once you feel comfortable wearing it, you're like, oh, this is cool.
Great. And even in the summer.
Listen, there's one more call I want to put out there before we go, because I feel like we have this power.
Yeah.
I don't know how much people love the episodes where we have a big exec from a big brand on. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. But we need like the Hoka CEO or the On CEO on here or something.
Yes.
Straight from Switzerland.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that soon.
Let's do it.
Or On, if you want to get us Roger Federer to come on the podcast.
We'd be happy to chat with him.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy? Sorry, we can just wrap this up. This is the last
be
thing.
on
It's
time
like
for that.
we totally forget how like we talk about how big On is at this moment, and I feel like people totally forget the fact that that Roger Federer left Nike to go to On.
I was thinking about that. That gets lost. I think like
how much of a power move was that like on his and did he
and
make
it's like what
he made millions and millions and millions of dollars off of that.
I thought about that the other day because you're leaving.
He owns
Nike
a part of the company.
Yeah, you're leaving. Now look,
that was like one of the biggest like forward thinking like sneaker
I thought
power
about that
moves.
the other day. It's a good point.
Didn't we
We'll
all
have to sit down with him and talk about it.
We all thought he was like everyone's like, oh, he's a fool for doing that. You're leaving Nike.
That's the first reaction sometimes. And now
you know how I said I'm in London right now? I'll be at Wimbledon, maybe looking for him.
Okay.
Maybe I'll see if I can.
No wonder he
get some
packed the
FaceTime.
loafers. No wonder he packed the loafers. He's going to win. All right. Well, enjoy your trip.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
This has been the Complex Sneakers Podcast. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Please like, subscribe. We will see you next week.